Lawmakers are on the job finding jobs for Connecticut workers. We're going to talk about how two bills passed in the special session are supposed to help Connecticut get back to business. Also, there are 9 days until the next elections here in Connecticut. The Secretary of the State is here to talk about efforts to get voters involved. Welcome to The Real Story. I'm Lori Perez. Lawmakers were on the job this past week looking for work for Connecticut. In a special session, legislators passed two bills focused on creating jobs. The end goal without dispute, but not everyone agreeing on how to achieve it. Here now to continue the discussion, House Majority Leader Brendan Sharkey, House Minority Leader Larry Cafero, and from the Connecticut Mayor Keith Phaneuf. Thanks all of you for being here. Obviously there were hours of debate, particularly over the Jackson Lab deal, which is a deal to use millions of state dollars to lure this Maine genetics company here. And I guess, Representative Cafero, if we could talk with you, first of all, from your perspective, characterize the hesitancy to go forward with the deal.
The deal is an investment, and we're using taxpayer dollars to invest. And like any investment, you want to make sure that you're minimizing your risk. You acknowledge it always is a risk, but you want to minimize the risk. And unfortunately, because of the quickness in time that this deal was presented to us, we didn't have as much information as we would have liked. And the general parameters which we were given didn't give many of us comfort that there were certain securities just in case the deal went bad. I think everyone was excited about the prospect. Everyone wants them to succeed, but we have to, as trustees of the public funds, make sure that if things don't work out the way we want, that we have some security. We were concerned about that.
Do you feel better about it now, or?
I don't, unfortunately. But, the bill is passed, and as I said, I think today to the governor, if our questions that were asked repeatedly in front of members of Jackson Labs in this administration strengthens the governor's hand in further negotiating with Jackson Labs, then we did what we should have done.
Representative Sharkey, if you could say why his, caution was too much. Doesn't he have a good point? Maybe
I think the reality of the situation, and I think everybody shares what Representative Cafero is talking about. I think we all were interested and concerned about the specifics of the deal, but the other reality was that this is not. First of all, this is not a one-off kind of project like a football stadium or something else like that. This is something that is a project that we've started investing in 6 years ago in stem cell research for UConn. And Jackson Labs is one of those companies that when they come to Connecticut, they bring that industry in our state to a whole new level. And they had a bad experience in Florida. And frankly, which is part of the reason why they came here, but also because they were impressed with the investments and attention we paid to this industry. And it was one of those things where I think we have to trust our governor to negotiate the final deal with Jackson Labs in a way that is going to protect our taxpayers and will also ultimately produce jobs.
Right. Keith?
One thing I'm curious about, though, I guess I'll start with Representative Sharkey. Some of the Democrats I talked to privately said they didn't think it was the best deal. What sold them was the topic, was the area we were focusing on. Is there some credence, though, to the idea that perhaps if this had been started a little earlier, we might still have Jackson Laboratory, we might have had a bipartisan vote? Could this have, with a little bit of advanced planning, perhaps have gotten both sides of the aisle together?
Well, I think that wasn't possible because the nature of the timing of this, from what we understand from the governor and his staff, was that they communicated with Jackson Labs right at the point when Florida had essentially rejected them, and they were looking for other suitors. They were being pursued by many, many other states around the country. And the time really was of the essence with regard to catching this opportunity while we had it. So while it would have been nice, I'm sure, to have had the luxury of a little bit more time to vet this and perhaps allow the governor to flesh out some of the details. The reality was, and I think the governor convinced us, that there really wasn't that luxury. We didn't really have that luxury.
Was that part of the Republican objection, that you perhaps didn't buy the argument that our window of time was that narrow?
Yeah, of course, Keith. I mean, they were in Florida negotiating with that state for 2.5 years. Now, I don't want to take 2.5 years, but our regular session starts in February. 4 months, when we are investing $300 million with the prospect of bringing in 300 jobs, direct jobs in 10 years, I think it deserved a little more time. But that being said, without that time, we needed more security, and unfortunately, we got neither. Now, I don't want to rehash that. The vote is done, and I wish Jackson Labs and this governor all the success in the world. We want them to thrive here. Of course we do. And I pledge to do everything we can to make it a success. But that was the reason. And again, as I said, if our questions, our concerns, strengthen the governor's hand at the negotiation table, because you got to understand, yesterday was just the beginning. He still has to negotiate this deal. If it strengthened his hand, then I'm proud of what we did.
I mean, I think that the question that lots of people will still keep having is, what is our security here? What's going to happen if Jackson Labs, if what they're projecting might happen in terms of spin-off jobs and their success, what if it doesn't happen?
Well, there are, under the agreement that they've tentatively reached in terms of the basic parameters of the deal and what will become part of the memorandum of understanding, which the governor has assured us will be in the deal, is that there will be annual measurements of their progress towards reaching the goals that they have set out in the larger context. So at any given time, if they're in default of those provisions and of those milestones and measurements, we are secure. The investment that we're making is secured by the building that they'll be constructing. We'll have a mortgage on the building. After 10 years, when that mortgage will be forgivable, but only if they reach all the milestones in every year, annually, throughout the deal.
Could I build on that and ask Representative Cafero? I mean, it's been a long time since we've been talking about any type of economic development project with even a fraction of the spin-off potential of Jackson Laboratory. I mean, we're talking potentially 4,000 jobs in the bioscience field, 2,000 service jobs. Does the governor deserve credit, even if you don't like the structure of the deal, simply for the area that he focused on?
Oh, of course he does. I mean, a good governor has to prospect for these opportunities. And he did, and he jokes about it. His chief of staff sort of came upon it while reading a paper in his summer vacation home. But nonetheless, they pursued it. They brought them here. They negotiated in earnest. I applaud the governor for that. But we have our role to do, and we could have used a little more information and a lot more security.
We're going to take a quick break, but up next we're going to continue our look at Connecticut's business climate and continue our discussion about how you guys are trying to help.